"Don't get in that car!" she screamed, her voice tearing through the underground parking lot like a braking alarm. The sound echoed off the concrete walls. Mr. Raymond Carter's hand froze on the car door handle. The world seemed to stop breathing. Engines idled, footsteps paused, even the distant hum of elevators felt quieter. Amara wished she could take the words back, but it was too late. Two tall security guards standing near the black luxury car slowly turned their heads toward her. Their faces were calm, too calm. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Just minutes earlier, she had not planned to be here. She had stayed late at the office, finishing files no one else wanted to handle. She was just an intern, the quiet one, the girl people barely noticed in meetings. When she finally left the building, she chose the underground parking lot because it was faster. That decision changed everything. As she walked past a thick concrete pillar, she heard low voices behind it. Russian. Fluent, clear. Her steps slowed. Her grandmother had raised her speaking Russian at home. It was their secret language in a small apartment far from the wealthy world of billionaires. And now that secret was the reason her heart was racing. One guard said, "Когда он сладит внутрь, двери автоматически заблокируются." When he sits inside, the doors will automatically lock. The second replied, "Через 3 минуты всё будет выглядеть как авария." In 3 minutes, it will look like an accident. Amara felt the air leave her lungs. She leaned slightly, just enough to see their shadows against the wall. One of them checked his watch. Nikakich ashibak. No mistakes. Her fingers went cold. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe they were joking. But then she heard the name. Carter. Carter. Her stomach dropped. Mr. Raymond Carter, the billionaire CEO of Carter Industries, the man who built one of the most powerful tech empires in the country. He was known for discipline, for control, for always being 3 steps ahead. But right now, he was walking toward his car, unaware. Amara stepped back into the shadows. Her mind screamed at her to walk away. This wasn't her problem. She was nobody here. If she accused security guards, who would believe her? Her heart pounded violently against her ribs. She imagined the news headline tomorrow. "Billionaire dies in tragic car accident." And she would know the truth. She pressed her palm against the cold wall, trying to steady herself. "Stay out of it," her fear whispered. But another voice inside her spoke louder. "If you stay silent, you're part of it." Footsteps echoed from the elevator. Mr. Carter appeared, walking confidently with his phone in one hand. He wore a dark overcoat, his expression focused. He looked powerful, untouchable. The guards straightened instantly. "Good evening, sir," one of them said smoothly. Mr. Carter nodded without looking at them. He stepped toward the car. Amara's throat felt tight. This was the moment. She could disappear into the stairwell. No one had seen her. She would be safe. But would she be able to live with it? Her legs felt weak as she stepped forward. "Sir," her voice cracked. No one heard her. Mr. Carter reached for the door handle, and something inside her snapped. "Don't get in that car," she screamed again, louder this time. Every head turned. Mr. Carter's eyebrows narrowed. The guard's eyes darkened instantly. Amara walked closer, even though her body begged her to run. "Please," she said, her voice shaking uncontrollably. "You can't get in." One guard forced a smile. "Miss, you need to calm down." But his jaw tightened. Mr. Carter looked at her carefully. "Who are you?" he asked, confused but alert. I work upstairs, intern, accounting department," she stammered. The other guard took a step toward her. "Sir, she's probably mistaken about something." Amara pointed at them. "They were speaking Russian," she said, swallowing hard, breathless. "They said once you're inside, the doors will lock. They said it would look like an accident." The silence that followed felt heavy. The guards' expressions didn't change, but their eyes did. One of them looked directly at her. "You understand Russian?" he asked slowly, low, threatening. "Yes," she replied, forcing herself not to look away. Her knees felt like they might collapse. Mr. Carter slowly removed his hand from the car door. His face was unreadable. "What exactly did they say?" he asked her calmly, controlled. She repeated every word she heard. Her voice trembled, but she did not stop. The first guard laughed lightly. "This is ridiculous," but the laugh sounded hollow. Mr. Carter's eyes moved from Amara to the guards. "You've been with my team for 3 years," he said quietly, cold calm. "Why would she invent something like this?" The second guard's nostrils flared slightly. "She wants attention," defensive. Amara felt humiliation rise in her chest. Attention! She hated attention. "I don't want anything," she said softly, emotional but steady. The air felt electric, heavy, dangerous. Mr. Carter's phone screen reflected in his glasses as he discreetly pressed something on his watch. Amara didn't notice, but the guards did. Their posture changed almost invisibly. "Sir," one of them said more firmly now, "we should leave." That pressure, that push, it felt wrong. Mr. Carter stepped back from the car completely. "I think we'll wait," he replied, calmly but firmly. For a second, no one moved. Amara's heartbeat was so loud she thought everyone could hear it. Had she just made the biggest mistake of her life? The first guard's eyes hardened. "You shouldn't have listened to her," he muttered under his breath in Russian, low and menacing. Amara understood that too. A chill ran down her spine. And that was the moment she realized this was real, not a misunderstanding, not a joke. She had stepped into something deadly. In the distance, faint footsteps echoed. More security. The tension cracked slightly. The guards shifted their weight. Mr. Carter's voice cut through the silence. "No one moves," he ordered, commanding and strong. Amara exhaled shakily. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if she would regret this. But she knew one thing with absolute clarity. If she had stayed silent, a powerful man would have been trapped inside that car, and tonight would have ended in flames. Her hands were still shaking, her heart was still racing, but deep inside, beneath the fear, something stronger began to rise. Courage. For a few long seconds, no one moved. The air in the underground parking lot felt thick, like it was pressing against everyone's chest. Then Mr. Carter did something unexpected. He let out a short, quiet laugh, not because it was funny, but because he understood something deeper. "I've built an empire from nothing," he said slowly, his voice calm but sharp. "You think I can't recognize when something feels wrong?" The two guards stiffened. Amara's hands were still shaking at her sides. Mr. Carter casually adjusted his watch. A tiny red light blinked once. Neither guard noticed. Or maybe they did, because suddenly their calm expressions cracked. "Sir, we should leave now," one guard insisted, stepping slightly closer to him. "No," Mr. Carter replied firmly. That single word changed everything. Footsteps echoed from the far end of the garage, fast, coordinated. Amara turned her head. 4 additional security officers rushed into the parking area. Real security, the kind personally trained by Mr. Carter himself. The 2 Russian-speaking guards exchanged a quick look. Panic flashed in their eyes for just a second. "What's going on here?" one of the new officers demanded. Mr. Carter didn't raise his voice. "These 2 men are no longer under my protection," he said calmly. The words hit like a hammer. One of the guards suddenly shoved Amara aside and bolted toward the exit. She stumbled backwards, nearly falling. "Stop him!" someone shouted. Within seconds, 2 officers tackled the fleeing guard to the concrete floor. The sound of bodies hitting the ground echoed loudly. The second guard reached inside his jacket. Amara gasped, but before he could pull anything out, he was restrained from behind, his arms twisted and forced into handcuffs. "You ruined everything," he hissed at Amara in Russian as they pinned him down. Her stomach twisted. Police sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing louder. Mr. Carter finally looked directly at her. His face was no longer confused, it was focused, calculating. "What is your name?" he asked quietly. Amara," she answered nervously. "Amara," he repeated, as if memorizing it. Thoughtful. "You may have just saved my life." The weight of those words made her chest tighten. "I wasn't sure," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought maybe I misunderstood. I didn't want to cause trouble." One of the restrained guards laughed bitterly from the ground. She understood perfectly. He spat in Russian. The police arrived moments later. Red and blue lights reflected across the concrete walls. Officers pulled the two traitorous guards to their feet and read them their rights. Mr. Carter stood tall, hands in his coat pockets, watching silently. Amara felt small standing beside him. The police began questioning everyone. "Miss, how did you know what they were saying?" an officer asked. "My grandmother raised me speaking Russian," Amara explained. "I heard them say the doors would lock automatically once he sat inside. They said it would look like an accident." The officer's face hardened. "That's attempted assassination," he muttered seriously. Mr. Carter closed his eyes briefly. Betrayal. From his own security team. From men he trusted. He looked toward the black luxury car. "If she hadn't spoken," he said quietly, almost to himself. The officer followed his gaze. "We'll have the vehicle inspected immediately." Amara suddenly felt cold again. The reality hit her. This was not a misunderstanding. This was planned, detailed, deadly. The guards had been bribed by a rival corporation, information that began surfacing quickly as police searched their phones. Money transfers, encrypted messages, a timeline. Everything pointed to tonight. 3 minutes after ignition, one detective said while reviewing data, the doors would have locked electronically, then the fuel system would malfunction. Amara covered her mouth. Mr. Carter's jaw tightened. "And it would have exploded?" he asked. The detective nodded once. Yes, it would. Silence fell again. This time it wasn't confusion, it was the silence of knowing how close death had been. Mr. Carter turned to Amara slowly. "Why didn't you walk away?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. "I almost did," I admitted honestly. "I was scared. They're trained, powerful. I'm just an intern." "And yet you stayed," he said. She nodded. "I kept thinking, if something happened to you and I knew the truth, I wouldn't forgive myself." His eyes softened slightly. Cameras began flashing near the garage entrance. Reporters had arrived. Word spread fast when police cars surrounded a Billionaire's headquarters. Mr. Carter's assistant rushed in. "Sir, the media is outside," she said nervously. Mr. Carter didn't hesitate. "Let them wait." He looked at Amara again. "You will stand beside me when I speak," he said firmly. Her eyes widened. "Me?" "Yes, the truth should be heard clearly." Minutes later, they stepped outside together. Bright camera lights blinded her. "Mr. Carter, is it true there was an attack?" one reporter shouted urgently. "Who stopped it?" another asked. Mr. Carter raised his hand for silence. "There was an attempt," he said calmly, "and it was stopped because a young woman chose courage over silence." He gestured toward Amara. Cameras immediately turned to her. She felt exposed, her heart pounding violently. "What did you hear?" a reporter asked. She swallowed hard. "I heard them planning to trap him in the car," she said, trembling but brave. A quiet whisper moved through the crowd. Mr. Carter's voice grew firmer. "She is the reason I am alive tonight." The words echoed through microphones and television screens. Amara's eyes filled with tears she tried to hold back. When the press conference ended, she felt drained, exhausted, scared. Inside the building again, the noise faded, the adrenaline began to disappear, and fear crept in. "What if they have friends?" she whispered quietly. "Not while I'm alive," he said seriously. "I will give you my word." She nodded, but anxiety still lingered in her chest. Everything in her life had changed in less than an hour. She was invisible this morning. Now she was on every news channel. As police escorted the arrested guards away, one of them looked directly at her again. His eyes burned with hatred. "You think this is over?" he muttered in Russian. A chill ran down her spine. Mr. Carter noticed her reaction. "What did he say?" he asked. She hesitated. "He said, 'This isn't over.'" Mr. Carter's face hardened instantly. "It is for them," he replied coldly. But deep down, Amara understood something important. Courage had consequences. She had stepped into a world of power, money, and enemies. There was no going back to being invisible. And as she stood there in the quiet hallway, listening to distant sirens fade away, she realized saving someone's life doesn't end the danger. Sometimes it's only the beginning. The next morning, the world knew her name. Amara woke up to her phone vibrating non-stop on the small wooden table beside her bed. Messages, missed calls, unknown numbers, notifications flashing across the screen. She sat up slowly, her heart already racing. For a moment, she thought maybe last night was a dream, but then she saw the headlines. "Intern saves billionaire from assassination plot. Brave young woman stops deadly betrayal." Her hands trembled as she scrolled. Her mother rushed into her room holding her own phone. "Amara, what is happening?" her mother asked, eyes wide. I heard something," Amara replied softly, exhausted. "And I spoke." Her mother stared at her for a long second. Then she pulled her into a tight hug, crying softly. "You could have been hurt," her mother whispered, fearful. "I know," Amara answered, quiet. "But I'm proud of you," her mother said, her voice breaking slightly, emotional pride. That word, proud, hit Amara deeply. She had grown up watching her mother work 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and cooking in a small restaurant during the day. Life had never been easy. And now, somehow, she had stepped into the center of something huge. By noon, a black car arrived outside her apartment building. Not the same car from last night. This one was surrounded by professional security. A man in a suit stepped out. "Miss Amara, Mr. Carter is expecting you," he said respectfully. Her neighbors peeked through their doors, curious whispers. Amara felt exposed again, but she took a deep breath. She wasn't the same scared intern from yesterday. At least she was trying not to be. When she arrived at Carter Industries, the building felt different. Employees stared as she walked through the lobby, whispering around her. Some smiled, some looked shocked, some looked jealous. She kept her eyes forward. Mr. Raymond Carter was waiting in his office, standing by the tall glass window overlooking the city. When she entered, he turned slowly. "Good morning, Amara," he said calmly. "Good morning, sir," she replied, nervous but polite. He gestured for her to sit. She hesitated. "I don't want fame," she said quietly before sitting down. "I didn't do it for attention." Mr. Carter nodded. "I know. That's exactly why you matter." His words were firm, but not loud. He walked toward his desk and placed a folder in front of her. Inside were documents, contracts, scholarship offers, a new position proposal. "I want you working directly with my executive team, full scholarship for your education, full salary, private security until this situation is fully resolved." Her eyes widened. "What?" she asked softly. "Me?" "Yes," he answered without hesitation. "You need people around me who have courage, not just degrees." Her throat tightened. "I've never even led a meeting," she admitted, insecure. "You led last night," he replied calmly. She looked down at the papers again. This was more than a job offer. It was a new life. But fear still lived inside her. "What about the people behind this?" she asked carefully, uneasily. "If someone powerful wanted you gone, won't they try again?" Mr. Carter's eyes darkened slightly. "They might," he said honestly, serious. "Power attracts enemies." The honesty surprised her. "But," he continued, leaning forward slightly, "I would rather face enemies with brave people beside me than cowards who stay silent." Silence filled the room. She thought about that moment in the parking garage, the fear, the shaking, the choice. "I was terrified that night," she admitted honestly. He gave a small smile. "Courage isn't the absence of fear," he said, calm wisdom. "It's acting despite it." Tears filled her eyes again. She signed the papers, and just like that, everything changed. Weeks passed. Security escorted her daily. News channels continued discussing the incident. The rival company involved faced investigation. But inside Carter Industries, something else was happening. People began treating her differently. Some respected her deeply. Others whispered behind her back. "She got lucky," one employee muttered in the hallway. "She just understood Russian," another shrugged, dismissively. The words hurt more than she expected. One evening she stayed late reviewing reports when Mr. Carter entered unexpectedly. "You look troubled," he observed. She hesitated. "Some people think I don't deserve this," she admitted vulnerably. He nodded slowly. "Success makes people uncomfortable," he said matter-of-factly, "especially when it arrives suddenly." "I didn't ask for this," she whispered, frustrated. "No," he agreed, "but you earned it." His confidence in her began to build something inside her, something stronger than fear. Confidence. Months later, during a major company event, hundreds of executives and investors gathered in a grand ballroom. Crystal lights sparkled above. Music played softly. Amara stood near the back, still feeling like she didn't belong. Mr. Carter stepped onto the stage and tapped his glass. The room fell silent. "There is someone here tonight," he began, proud, "who reminded us that courage does not depend on wealth, position, or power." Her heart started pounding again. He extended his hand toward her. "Amara, please join me." Whispers filled the room. She walked to the stage slowly, her hands slightly shaking. He handed her the microphone. The lights felt blinding. She took a breath. "I was scared that night," she said honestly, trembling but truthful. The room listened closely. "My voice was shaking. My legs felt weak. I wanted to walk away." A few heads nodded in understanding. "But being silent would have scared me more," she continued, confident and strong. "Sometimes doing nothing feels safer, but it can cost someone their life." The silence was powerful. "I'm not special," she added humbly. "I just didn't ignore what I heard." Applause slowly began. Then it grew louder, stronger. People stood up, loud cheering. Amara felt something shift inside her completely. She was no longer the invisible intern. She was someone who had made a choice. After the event, as she stood alone on the balcony overlooking the city lights, Mr. Carter joined her. "You've changed this company," he said quietly. She shook her head. "I only changed one night." "No," he replied gently, "you changed how people think." She looked at the city below. "I still get scared sometimes," she admitted softly. "Good," he said. She looked at him confused. "Fear reminds us what matters," he explained calmly. She nodded slowly. The wind brushed against her face.
That night in the parking garage felt far away now, but she would never forget it. One sentence, one warning, one decision. Don't get in that car. That moment taught her something powerful. Courage is not about being fearless. It's about speaking when your voice shakes. It's about choosing truth over comfort. And sometimes, the smallest voice in the room can change the fate of the most powerful man in it.